You're a bit close. Is that? Are we adopting the closeness like this? Or what are we doing?
Go close.
Okay, right. Come on. Let's do it.
Okay.
Stop leaning back. Find a position and stay in
You
it.
need to put your stand up a wee bit.
Listen to
Does
the
it go
coach.
up?
Listen to the voice.
Otherwise,
coach.
you're going to be crouching down. That's terribly bad for breath. Hello. There we go.
Hey there, creative minds and business enthusiasts. Welcome to Looks Like We Made It, the podcast where we dive deep into the dynamic world of video marketing, content creation, and all things creative. I'm Izzy, your guide through this creative journey, wearing two hats, head of production and senior video editor. But I'm not in this alone. Meet the other half of our dynamic duo, my dad, Chris, our director and the creative genius behind Howell Media. Together, we're not just a podcast, we're a father-daughter team on a mission to bring you insights, tips, and laughs from the heart of the creative industry. Whether you're a business looking to up your video game or a budding creative hungry for knowledge, this is the place to be. We've got real life experiences, expert advice, and a sprinkle of anecdotes to keep things interesting. This week we're answering the question, how can I sound better on camera? And we're joined by the wonderful Nic Redman, voice coach, director, and fellow podcaster. So if you're ready to unlock the power of video, bespoke content, and training to achieve amazing results, you're in the right spot. Fasten your seatbelts because this is Looks Like We Made It, where we turn creativity into success, one episode at a time. Let's go.
Welcome, Nick.
Can I just have a minute, please? Just process that.
I told you that introduction is
That
intense.
was like some kind of podcast version of a rap.
Yeah,
Wasn't
thank
it?
you. Thank
Rappity
you.
rap?
Yeah,
You should put it to music.
It is already in the theme tune.
Do you listen to the podcast?
I actually do listen to the podcast. I quite enjoy them.
okay.
Yeah, I do. And I think, God, that guy knows what he's talking about.
See, it's funny because I think the exact opposite. I'm
Yeah.
joking.
Okay, I'm going to go. You guys to sort this out.
I know. Well, yeah, because you didn't realise we're father and daughter, which I think is
No.
amazing.
So, Nick, what did you think? Go on, say it.
Oh,
for the audience.
brother and sister.
Oh,
Sorry, Tommy.
my actual brother, who probably will gasp. So we're a family team of.
Is Tommy also involved?
He isn't.
He was headhunted.
He was headhunted and taken away from us. So he's actually
Headhunted.
He's the successful one, really.
Okay.
But anyway, so we could talk about our family history for a while, but instead, tell us about you, Nick.
Well, I've got one brother. So where would you like me to start? Like, how
Tell
you
me
got
about how, not literally how you got here, but tell us.
69.
Tell us about you, what you do, and how you got about doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I started actually 20 years ago as a performer in the West End, and then I got kind of asked at some point to do a voiceover. Somebody needed a Northern Irish voice. I was like, fine, I'll go do that, as you do when you're a starving artist. So
I thought you were putting it on.
No, I can do many others, but sadly this is my own. So I went to a wee studio in West London and did like 20 minutes work, and they gave me like £400. And as an actress in the West End, I was like, this is interesting to me. How can I do more of this? But I had this moment in the booth where I was like, oh, this is fun. Because musical theatre is very, at the time, was very aesthetically driven. So you could sound amazing but not look right for the part. And I was coming up on that a lot. Like I had the skills, but I was too tall or too small or too curvy or not curvy enough for the roles that were out there for my age. So it just wasn't working. It was fine, but it wasn't really fulfilled. And I had this like, kind of moment in the booth where it just worked. And I just loved being on the microphone. And it came out after that. And the guy was like, great, well done. I was like, oh my God, that was my first one. And he was like, oh, well, like, well done, you know, you were good at it. And I was like, okay. And then I did what I do, which is get amongst it, talk to people, network, see how I can do more of that thing. And cut to 20 years later via a wonky path of going from acting into voiceover and stand-up comedy, and then going back to uni for the third time, sorry mum, to do a master's degree in voice studies and vocal pedagogy. Came out of there, did the usual thing, which is go around drama schools, do a bit of show support, do one-to-one, all that kind of stuff. Wow. And that's kind of led me to where I am today.
Gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So who do you work with? Who's your kind of like your ideal client?
These days,
subject?
I expect because of my work as a voiceover artist for like 20 years and 10 years as a podcaster, I tend to specialise in being on the mic. Oh my God, what? Yes, I wrote a book about it.
Oh gosh, look at that.
Oh,
Wow.
where did you get that from?
All right, Amazon. I brought that one for you though.
Oh, thank you.
Just slip me a fiver or whatever.
It is on the mic, and it is by Nic Redman.
It's by me.
Voice training for voiceover artists, podcasters, speakers, and presenters. You're damn right. I'll be reading that.
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
catchy. It's really catchy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I tend to specialise in people on the microphone. So, you know, you have to niche, right? I love being on the microphone. I set up a community for voiceover artists and voice training specifically during the pandemic. That grew to like 6,000 people on Facebook. Then these days, I'm moving more towards corporate stuff. So people in companies who are hosting the corporate podcast who are like terrified or excited but not sure where to start with their voice on the microphone. Also broadcasters, podcasters, comedians, because I'm married to a comedian as well, so it's still in my life. No matter how much I try to get rid of it, divorce would be far too much paperwork at this point.
Everybody's married to a comedian in some way, aren't they?
Yeah, if they think so or not, but
not in the way that I am.
You are.
You're official.
You're official. You're official.
Yeah, I've got the stripes. So presenters, people who are doing corporate presentations, pitching, all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, my role is a voice coach, and it's really about the technique of the voice itself. So there's lots of stuff out there for, you know, presentation coaching and public speaking and media training. And I kind of provide what I like to sort of call like the cherry on the cake, in the sense that, you know, you can learn all the techniques for all that stuff, but ultimately, how do you use your voice and understand your voice and use it in a way to really represent your brand or represent yourself and your company and your organization in a way that feels authentic and easy and fun, and so you don't want to have to, you know, die inside every time you hear yourself played back.
I think that's fantastic.
I've
I've got millions of questions, so you go first.
But my first question is, because this is something that, because I train people to be on camera, and that comes with using your voice a lot, unless you want to be a TikTok pointer or a sort of dancer or whatever it may be. Most people that I speak to say, I hate my own voice. How many times have people said that to you, and what is your response?
I mean, if I'd had to quit every time, I wouldn't need to. It happens loads, and funny enough, the one viral-ish TikTok I had, which happened, and then I ran away from TikTok because it was terrifying, because people were much more interested in telling me how I looked rather than actually engaging with the content. Anyway, was entitled, "Do you hate the sound of your own voice?" So many people in my DMs like, yes, 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 yes. No, I love my voice. And I'm like, amazing. But it was mainly, I hate the sound of my own voice. So it happens a lot.
And do people try and change their voice, like to kind of match the circumstances? And is that even possible? Is that even a thing? Or
yes, I feel like a lot of people decide on a persona that they want to present and the voice that should go with that, and often it's based on something they've heard represented a lot in the media, or it's their favourite podcaster, or a sound that they think is worthy and relevant and important, rather than allowing themselves to find their own voice on the microphone, which is what I'm an advocate for. So most people who come for podcasting, for example, if I've got a podcaster who's planning a show, they'll think about all the stuff. They'll think about the concept and the graphics and the edit and the tech and where they're going to do it, and they'll plan out their episodes, and then they'll say something like, I really want to sound like such a person with this podcast. And I'll go, okay. And then I'll say, well, let's read something. And they'll just do like an impersonation of.
Okay.
So for me, it's about going, it's fine to have people that you aspire to not emulate per se, as in like an impersonation, but give off the certain kind of vibes, you know. But you've really got to find who you are on the microphone. And that's really where the voice thing comes in, because so many people aim to sound a certain way. Right. Rather than focusing on... What you mean,
like kind of like authoritative or funny or whatever it might be?
That, right, so they'll say, I want to sound engaging. Right. I want to sound authoritative. I want to sound funny, cool, intelligent, whatever. And then it becomes this whole, I need to sound this way, I need to sound this way, and becomes performative. And actually the real thing with podcasting, particularly for most business stuff and for being on camera, is finding an authentic way to completely be yourself. So the only way you can do that is when you're not monitoring and listening to yourself. And if you're sat there going, okay, I need to sound really authoritative now.
Yeah.
You're only listening to what's coming out of your mouth. You're not focusing on the words or the impact you want to have. So a lot of the work with podcasters or people presenting the video is going, don't worry about how you sound. Think about how you want people to feel. and with your words and what you're saying and your tone and your prosody and all that stuff. And the interesting thing about voice work is that a lot of the stuff I do with the technique of voice, like the warm-ups and the breath and the alignment and the resonance and all that kind of stuff, is so that when you get on the microphone, you don't have to worry about the technical element of your voice coming out, being clear, being expressive, all that kind of stuff. You can really focus on the emotional journey and the impact you want to have. And then that allows you to, in the words of one of my favorite practitioners, Barbara Houseman, turn the cameras outwards and focus on the listener. So instead of going, I want to sound authoritative, you're going, I educate you. Right. I intrigue you.
Right.
I embrace you. I excite you. You know, and you're really thinking about how what you're saying and what your voice is doing to make the listener feel something.
That is fantastic.
Wow. I mean, I am very aware of my own voice right now. So
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Good.
I'm a bit like that. I've never even considered it. And then now Nic's here, I'm thinking, oh gosh.
I'm like, oh God, we must. Yeah. So I mean, for me, my thing when I present and when because I don't want to sound like a TED speaker or anything. I do a lot of public speaking.
Are you not a TED speaker?
I'm not. I want to be. If anyone's listening.
Yeah.
But and also doing the podcast, we've done this since 2021, and basically we had no idea what we were doing. We just kind of figured it out.
Fair,
and went
we
from
still
there.
don't
We still
really
don't
know what we're doing.
But my thing that happens to me is I have the fear of silence. So a lot of what I'll do, and this is something that people do when they're making video content that I see, is they sort of fill the gaps in and talk really, really fast, and then you kind of get out of breath, and then you sort of feel like you got to keep going with it, and you're committed to it, and then that's where I'll see Chris in the background going, slow down, take a breath, because actually you kind of end up getting wound up almost.
I think the pace thing is quite interesting. I don't know if I'd be interested to get your sort of comment on that, but also you're brilliant. You are a brilliant public speaker.
Yeah, that wasn't me looking.
No,
for sympathy.
you are a brilliant public speaker, but in the past you've done the whole thing in one breath. I've seen you stand there for 40 minutes, and I don't think at any point he's actually breathed in the last 40 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just because I think my thing is that I like to have a lot of energy, and I think that's something that I preach a lot for people making content, but then I don't often know how to take a breath and slow down. So that would be something I'd be intrigued to find out more about.
Pace is really interesting for me because people really obsess on it for speakers, you know, and a lot of the time I have people come to me who go, well, my boss says I speak too fast, or my colleagues say I am too monotone, or whatever. They've got this arbitrary feedback that's based on an aesthetic feature, right? So speed, tone, pace, whatever it happens to be, clarity. And I think this might be the sort of creative background where the creative direction comes in a sense, and how that links with the voice coaching that I do, is that every decision you make about the words that come out of your mouth has to be for a reason, has to be linked to what I was saying earlier about how that person is going to feel. So there's no point you slowing down if it goes against your personality, the vibe and the energy you want to create. If someone's telling you to slow down just because they can't hear you, maybe that's actually their problem.
See?
In one sense. Okay. And I always
1-0 to Issy.
I always come into this with a little bit of like listener lessons as well, I suppose, in the sense that we all as listeners can be more generous listeners. We can all examine our own privilege and our own position and go, I see people in conferences all the time, and I'm the person in the audience going, because I know what it's like to be up there. I'm like, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm having a great time. Please keep going. I know you're nervous, you know. So I'm the audience member who's really generous like that because it's part of my job. But I see people going after 5 or 6 seconds. That's an unfamiliar accent. They're obviously nervous. I can't be bothered.
And they just go on their
I just switch off.
But that's just rude, though, isn't it? I mean,
yes, but it happens more than you think, and
yeah.
we all have reason. We all have somewhere to go now.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I'm making notes. Yeah.
That's the thing. I never like taking notes on my phone because I think I've got that mindset that I had when I was at school where people just think I'm texting, and I don't want that. So I always just sort of try and either write
so
look
young.
like I'm writing. I know back in the days with the BlackBerry where I could type under the desk, but yeah, to me that I'm the same as you is the fact that I'll look all happy and supportive no matter how dry the topic may be.
There's always a fan in the room. You got to look at them. That's a little tip for if you're nervous. Find the fans. But the thing about pace for the speaker is that you've got to think, okay, why am I fast? Am I fast because I'm nervous? And in that case, we can do a few things to help you feel in control, which is good and helps with breathing and can help with clarity. If you're fast because it's your accent or your dialect, that's fine. There are ways we can work the technique to release your articulators and make your voice responsive so that you can speak fast but also clearly. And also think about, if you're using pace, it's about how am I using pace creatively? I'm not just using it because someone said I need to slow down and all good public speakers speak slowly. Like, because that's nonsense. I mean, I speak at a rate of knots because it's my accent. It's kind of, we do like a few bit, like it's fast, and then it's a wee bit slow. Like, that's just how my Northern Irish accent works. So it's about going, okay, if I'm using pace, how am I using it creatively to serve the story or to serve the emotional journey that I'm taking people on? One of my bugbears is that people slow down in sometimes what I think is the wrong way by just putting pauses in.
Right.
And that, I think, is a complete waste of your time up there, complete waste of the listener's time. You've really got to look at the language and go, okay, how can I use these words to slow down? For example, I kind of demonstrated it there. How can I use these words to slow down?
You're kind of elongating the words.
We've got long vowels, we've got short percussive vowels, we've got longer consonants and shorter consonants. We've got all these different things that we can do to kind of to in an interesting and useful and tangible, feelable way, slow down. Because what happens to people if you slow down is they go, oh God, I have to be ready, I need to slow down. They said I need to slow down, Okay. Hello, and thank you for coming to my talk. And then what you get is sentences in like 4-word chunks, which is one of my bugbears. And you hear a lot in podcasting. It's, we're here today to talk to the person who knows a lot about video marketing. Nobody talks like that in real life. Like, it's really annoying.
And I think that's, you're right, actually, because I've listened to lots like that, and I think it's a natural, authentic podcast works somewhere is what it's all about. That ultimately, if you talk to us after we've finished this is you get an extension of this.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that if you try and do something, and to kind of then it's a bit fake potentially.
I think for me it's a mixture.
You're very conscious of how you speak,
I'm
aren't you?
really conscious of it now. But
that was a lovely example. I'm really conscious of it now.
Oh yes,
you did it.
I'm doing it.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
When we get behind the microphone or on the stage or in front of the camera, we start like making decisions that like separate us from the text and everything and separate us from our voice. In real life, we do all this expressive stuff anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm asking my husband to make a cup of tea, I'll be like, please, can I have a cup of tea? I won't be like, please, can I have a cup of tea? He'd be like, what are you doing? Like, that's instinctively, we know how to emote with our voice. Anybody with children, thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Or anybody with who's had to say the same thing numerous times in a row will know that you have to change that, right? Put your shoes on. Put your shoes on. I need you to put your shoes on. Put your shoes on. You know what I mean? And we emotionally. I'm not thinking. I need to find some variety and use pace. And like, it's just it's an emotional
get on with it.
Right?
And put your shoes on.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, life choices.
I feel like that could be a whole separate podcast because I could talk about that for a very long time.
Yes.
You're pretty good at getting your shoes on these days.
Not me. Well done.
But I try. It's only taken 28 years. But yeah, no, I'm with you.
But
on
the
that.
point is, you know, when we're put in this completely artificial situation with a mic or the camera or whatever, we start second guessing everything and we start doing rather than feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that's often where the problems come for people trying to be authentic and trying to be themselves. They don't feel like themselves when there's a camera on them. Nobody does.
Well, we get that all the time when we're interviewing people, that you get these people who are really, you can have a great conversation with them and you set the cameras up and everyone's chatting and you say, okay, 3, 2, 1 and rolling, and
it's like
they can't speak. They don't even know their name anymore.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of deal with that quite a bit, don't we?
Yeah, and I think that the bit that I always find with energy and stuff and getting people to convey their message and whatnot, and I've worked with a lot of people who want to be on camera, they want to kind of show up on camera and talk to their audience, but the moment the camera is on them, they go serious. It's almost like you've taken all the happiness out of them and they feel like, because nerves make them go within themselves. And that's something that because in my talk that I did last week, I talked about how we need to kind of move on from that. I'm going to make a video today, so therefore I'm going to just say, hi, my name is, and I do this, and almost do like an elevator pitch because no one's watching it. Like, they would need something more engaging. They need something that grabs their attention straight away. So does that happen a lot where people, when they get nervous, they almost lose all the energy? Like they just become all serious and downtrodden?
Yeah. Or the opposite, and they go super duper fast and panic.
That's me.
But what was I going to say about that? The interesting thing about voice is that it gives you, and voice training and creative direction for this kind of thing, is that the voice exercises give you things to do to handle the nerves, to release the tension, to level your mindset and get yourself into a more useful place. They also give you tangible things to do in the moment if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Nice.
And then the creative direction element is about giving you purpose and intention and a reason for being there. And I think that's really powerful when it comes to showing up on video or using your voice, because then it becomes not about you at all. And I sit with the privilege of doing this all the fucking time. And sorry, I Irish sweared.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't know if that counts
It's
as
a half swear.
Is
It's
it?
a
Yeah,
half
it's
swear.
half.
It's fine.
But if I think about... I heckled myself. Just give me a second to find my train of thought.
Well,
didn't
all I
heckle
was going
you.
to do, while you remember, Nick, I was going to chip in and say it's interesting that when we work with professional talent, how they're the opposite. They kind of come in, you meet someone and you think, oh, yeah, okay, and then suddenly they go the opposite. The camera's running and they're just fantastic. The one takers are just, people that do it for a living. They never fail to amaze me, and I'm not going to name drop, but like you just think, God, that was just brilliant. And then they go, oh, cheers and thanks, and then off they go and do and that's the polar opposite to what you were saying when people, shrink into themselves when they're presented with a camera.
But it just proves to you that it's a skill that can be learned.
Yeah.
It's just about practice, and for most people, it's a completely alien environment.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about letting people understand that what they're feeling is normal, completely normal, and that there are ways through to help them feel better, and also that there is the other side of this is going to be being a lot better at it. I remember what I was going to say. I was going to say that I've been leading a community online and seeing my face and getting used to what I have been given on a screen. So I'm kind of over it now. I don't really care. This is my face, this is my voice, because it's not about that. I think one of the privileges of building a community and leading something like that is that you realize it's really about value. It's all about value. And I think when you show up on camera, you've got to take the ego out of it. I don't mean ego in a bad way, but 99.9% of us on camera are like, God, what's my hair doing? Did I put enough makeup on? What's the angle? Hey. But ultimately, you're not doing it to look good on camera or sound good on the microphone. You're doing it because there's somebody on the other side of that who needs your help.
Yeah.
So it's really constantly reframing it and constantly going, this isn't about me. This isn't about me. This isn't about me. It's about you. And when you're a business person showing up on camera or on the microphone, turning it on, I don't think is the right approach.
Right.
You've got to find a way to settle into who you are and bring you out rather than putting on some veneer or some persona.
Yeah.
It's tiring. It's also tiring as well, isn't it? If you keep, I once tried to be serious, and it kind of lays too hard.
We backed off from that pretty quickly.
Well, that's another rabbit hole, isn't it? Whereby we've talked about this in the past on this podcast, where throughout my whole career, where I've owned businesses and I've done stuff, people go, oh, you're too nice. You need to be tough. You need to be tough to get on in this world. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not. I'm not tough at all. What? I don't get that. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying about just it's that authenticity and it's just kind of like, being yourself, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I have a question, Nick, which because I think when you work in the space you work in and in the kind of spaces we work in, people assume because you are in front of the camera or you are behind the mic that you never get nervous about it, or that you never have to reset, or that you personally, because we're on camera quite a lot, we don't ever think about it anymore. It's but there are times where I think, oh, actually, I'm quite nervous to talk to this audience. I'm quite nervous to get myself out there. Even still, do you still get those now and then?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I messaged you this morning going, she's not sent me any questions.
That's my fault.
What have I done the answers? It's not your job to send me questions. I should have asked sooner. But I still like, oh my God, like a new podcast.
Yeah.
And I did my warm up in the car on the way over, and I hypothetically talked through some stuff. You know, I kind of, if they ask me this, I might say this, or how do I introduce myself again? Or, you know, I'm constantly refining and exploring and being curious with how I show up on the microphone and things. I absolutely get nervous, yeah. And I think that's I actually sort of encourage it. And I feel like nerves have bad branding in the sense that it's a set of anatomical biological processes and feelings that happen in loads of other situations, which are great. You know, all the things we feel for nerves, like sweaty palms, butterflies, visiting the toilet more than usual, shakes, sweat, whatever it is, breathlessness, they all happen in loads of other amazing ways, like before you get in a roller coaster, on a first date. You remember how I used to feel then? It was nerves, but it's like exciting, anticipatory nerves, you know? So I think we have to think about poor nerves and the branding they've had, because their only job is to keep us safe. That's all nerves are there for. The strength comes from knowing how your body reacts. Like, what are the biological processes that happen for you? Do you get a shaky leg, so you need to not wear a loose skirt? Do you visit the toilet a lot and maybe you should wait to eat afterwards? Do you get a sticky mouth? Make sure you hydrate. And that gives you autonomy and makes you feel empowered that, yeah, you'll get nervous. That's okay, but you have this strategy, and this strategy. And I think with voice, it's important to remember that nerves ultimately create tension, and that's what can lead to speeding, and that's what can lead to no breathing, and that's what can lead to monotony or a lack of expression or tripping up over your words. It all comes down to tension. So what we do in the book and my podcast and with my clients, step one is always, let's have a few exercises that you can do to really harness those nerves, to get rid of the tension, excess unnecessary tension. We all need a little bit of tension, but like all the stuff that's getting in the way and jeopardizing your ability to speak freely and expressively when you're nervous. But I'm never saying to anybody, you should never be nervous or stop those nerves, you know, because it's just counterintuitive.
Yeah, and I think so. Without giving away the secret sauce, without, you know, giving away everything that's in this wonderful book, which we will be reading, and you'll see after we've read this, our game will be up so high that, you know, suddenly it'll all start making sense. But what's something that a quick, easy technique that people can enact the next time they make a video, or that we can do basically to make us sound instantly, if there isn't a quick fix, or if there's something a technique or an exercise people can put in place that gives them a hint as to what you do and how they can see those results?
Yeah, okay. So from a voice, okay, there's three little areas we can cover here. One is like dealing with the nerves, one is the voice, and one is the delivery, right? So why don't we do one little tiny one for each?
Okay.
So with the nerves, something I find really powerful, which is so silly and stupid, but it works, is when you're standing there in front of the camera, or when you're sat in your chair behind the microphone, is thinking about posture. So long and wide in the back, as we all sit.
We all sit
We all
up.
sit up.
It's long and wide. I'm not saying straight or stiff. It's like thinking long, thinking wide. And just giving your toes a little wiggle.
Oh, okay.
Because what happens inside your shoes, what happens when we get nervous is everything comes up, ready to like run away or fight. Everything comes up the breath. And if you just wiggle your toes, it gives you something physical to do that like brings your body, your center of gravity down, and you're focused to the floor, so your body feels safer. And then the final thing in that little section is just...
I'm trying to wiggle my toes, but Chris's big shoes are in the way. There we go.
Is breathe out. Because what everybody does when they're nervous is...
Yeah.
And then people go, take a deep breath, you'll be fine. Take a deep breath. And then what happens is this...
And then you hold it.
And then you're really tense. So wiggle your toes, breathe out. It's really nice just letting your breath go. And just a nice sigh is really good.
I instantly feel more
So if you
powerful.
have someone in front of the camera who is nervous, just say, breathe out. Don't say breathe in, say breathe out.
Just breathe out.
And again, it doesn't need to be like yoga kind of. It can just be like a sigh.
Let it all out.
Let it all go.
Let it all go. I love that.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. From a voice perspective, I mean, I've got exercises coming out my arse. There's loads of them, but like a really nice, quick, easy one is just rolling your shoulders, because that helps release tension as well. Nice and gently up to the ears, all the way back. And at the same time, keep your neck long there. That's lovely. So yeah, it's quite easy to want to put your chin up, but we want to think length in the back of the neck. That's it, lovely. So rolling your shoulders and then just doing a chewy hum, gliding up and down. So I go up when my shoulders go up and down when my shoulders go down. So like you're really enjoying something. Like this podcast.
I should have done this in the cafe with my lunch.
So with that, we're releasing the lips, which are an articulator. We're getting the vocal folds vibrating nicely and closing nicely. We're bringing the breath into it as well, and we're releasing some tension from the shoulders.
You feel like you feel more sort of loosey-goosey.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Excellent. Well,
And then
that'll be a nice watch for our listeners who are watching.
Yeah.
Us going,
Hey, I let you off pretty lightly because there's some really mad
I
exercises.
I was at an
You've
event.
been-
We're doing horse.
Yeah, disgruntled horse.
Yes.
that.
There's like 50 people in a room doing that. It's quite,
Really
it's quite effective. It was good.
It was good. You know, after the pizza, it got us all
Out
ready
of
to go.
context, walking past going, what's going on in there?
Don't. I had a couple of sessions with a big corporate company, and some people are like, "What have I signed up for?" I'm like, "Come on, let's la la la. Yes, you're a CEO. I don't care. Show me your horse lips." And then from a delivery perspective, is go, how do I want them to feel at the end of it? Right. So every interaction we have, every communication we have, is based on an exchange of emotion, even if it's just put that down. You know, it's someone going from absolutely fine to, oh my God, fine, I'll put it down. Like you've changed their emotional state in some way. So if you just think, right, I've got a podcast intro to read here. How will they feel at the start? How do I want them to feel halfway through? And how do I want them to feel at the end? And that's about going, okay, I want them to feel maybe welcomed, intrigued, excited. And can you use your voice, if it's warmed up and you're all ready to go and you've worked on your technique and your words are right, then you're finding that emotional journey and you're taking people with you.
I want them to feel perplexed that I've said that many words in such a short amount of time, really.
Okay.
Which works every time.
I think that's absolutely fascinating, Nick, because that notion of kind of like weaving a narrative into your delivery and stuff that's something that I've never even thought of before.
Yeah.
People. Sorry, I could talk for days.
Do it.
on
We're
this.
listening.
Come, stay tuned for part 2. Is people get so focused on the technique of it all. You know, where's the microphone? These are my words that have been maybe checked by the company for legal reasons, like everything. And they sit down and they try to be a really good podcaster, or they try to be a really good presenter, and they forget about the human on the other side. Mm-hmm. So reminding yourself of the emotional journey and reflecting on how every day we go through emotional, people talk about stories a lot, and that's kind of it in a sense. But for me, it's like, well, what is the story? The story is an emotional change. It's like, this experience happened, and at the start I felt like this, in the middle I felt like this, and at the end I felt like that. And no matter what you're saying, there's always an emotional journey. Like, I spent a lot of my life as a voiceover saying things like, thank you for calling. Your call is important to us. Please hold. Now, that could have been, thank you for calling. Your call is important to us. Please hold. Or it could be, thank you for calling. Your call is important to us. Please hold. And that's still a story, you know?
Yeah.
So the difference is pretty substantial as well.
And that's the thing about voiceover, which I find fascinating and curious, is that, you know, it's the same thing as podcasters and presenters. We really want to be really good at the job we're doing. And you really forget about the fact that it's a human-to-human interaction. Yeah. So a lot of my work about voice is preparing you mentally, physically, vocally, to be able to take that person on a journey with you, whatever the medium.
I think that's particularly when you're on hold, because sometimes, I know this sounds very strange, but it just makes me think that sometimes when I am on hold with someone, if the voice sounds like it actually cares, I might stick around a bit longer. But my favourite one is a doctor's surgery, which is near to where I live. I'm not going to drop a minute or anything. But when you're on hold with them, the voice on it says in such a slow, monotonous tone, if this is a medical emergency, please dial 999. I think if that's a medical emergency, like, you got to
get on with it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And every time I hear it, I think if you're having a heart attack and you're listening to that going, right, okay, I'm thinking, be a bit quicker.
What is the number?
And like that in itself, like every time I hear that, it kind of doesn't make me laugh, but it makes me think, oh my God, like, seriously, get on with it. That's quite an important bit of messaging to get out there. But
it's not
yeah.
AI, is it? Which brings me on to I mean, this probably could be a separate podcast.
We've got the hands rubbed. Yeah,
No, just like what's your view? What's your view of kind of AI voice, and is it literally going
from
to hell in a
what
handcart?
perspective? Like a listener perspective, or
Just kind of like from a professional, from a voice professional, like kind of like in under 40 minutes.
And this is my TED Talk. From a voiceover perspective, it's having a big impact on the industry. Some people think bad, some people think interesting, curious opportunities. I know firsthand and from anecdotally from my colleagues that a lot of people are losing certain areas of work on hold, stuff that's kind of generic, and that what we would like entry-level jobs that are kind of bread and butter. They are being often taken by AI, which you can see as a good thing or a bad thing. For some people, it is a big revenue dip. For others, it's an opportunity to pursue other creative things. But it's definitely impacting the voiceover industry. I mean, on my first podcast, the Voiceover Social podcast, which is now run by somebody else, we started investigating this like 7 years ago, when we spoke to a company who had created the first AI voice that could cry. And there are lots of interesting arguments from the AI voice generating tech community that are geared around, but you could create an AI version of yourself and then send that to work as like a passive income, recurring income, i.e. when you're booked on one job, your other voice could be working for you, which is laughable because nobody's that busy. No. So there's ways of writing the narrative to suit both sides. It is terrible for a lot of voiceover artists, and if you're getting into voiceover work right now, you've got to think about it as in a very different way than at the start. From a tech perspective, and I'm doing a talk at a TechNet on the use of voice coaches and voice directors in creating AI voice models, because from a listener perspective, I still don't think they're good enough. No. Some are amazing, but they still don't stand up actually to the real human experience as a listener. So I'm interested in joining the dark side, I suppose, or exploring how, because I've worked on a couple of AI voice recording projects as a voice director, and it's really interesting the process of doing that and what a voice director or a voice coach can do in the capturing of the voice data to create an AI voice model that is far superior.
Right, okay.
So I'm intrigued in that area of it, in one sense. I think we're in an interesting era generationally. Maybe you could speak to this, Issy, because you're younger than I am. I know it's really hard to tell.
Well, we're brother and sister.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the people underneath me generationally care. Right. And that is sad, but it's the world they grew up in. My son doesn't care. Like, there's a ridiculous thing that happens with my phone when I plug it in at the moment. I changed the voice to the Irish option. Obviously, I mean, it's Southern Irish, but it's as close as we're going to get to speak to me, right? And when I plug it in and I want to send a message when I'm driving, it does it all for you. It'll go, do you want to send a message? And I'll say, yes. And then it goes, to who? Because whatever's happened with the data or the algorithm, it's just wrong. Why some things it's hilarious. Like, he doesn't care. Yeah. He doesn't care if he hears a voice on the internet that's robots. Yeah. And that's interesting.
It is really interesting.
So it's a big, complex thing.
I think my because I'm sort of a millennial, if you will. I'm bordering on the edge of sort of being older than a Gen Zer, so I'm definitely not in that camp. I'm kind of
You're not a millennial.
I am a millennial.
What does that mean?
A millennial is from
I'm showing I'm a Victorian.
Millennial is from, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, from 1985 to 1997. I fit in that bracket. Not giving away anything else. Just fit in that bracket. So I'm classed as a millennial Z, which is like the transitional millennial.
So hypothetically, if you were born like in sort of 60s, 70s sort of
You're a Gen X person.
Right,
You're
okay.
not a boomer. Don't worry.
Okay.
You're a Gen X.
I have no idea what any
When-
of this means.
This is all asking
You don't
for
wanna be a
friends.
boomer.
But if you don't
But
know,
wanna
then
be a
if you
boomer.
don't know, that puts you somewhere. Then presumably.
Yeah, so you're but it's like how people engage with stuff. It's all, there's lots of generational sort of stuff now. But for me, I mean, yes, go on.
No. I've got two things.
Please,
I'm
well,
gonna,
your say.
I'm gonna, but please, sorry. I won't.
But what I was going to say was is that for me, I'm on the kind of cusp of being frustrated and irritated by it, but also okay with it. So I'm on both sides. I like sometimes what it is when I hear AI voices and stuff, I sometimes get frustrated for other people. So like if I get like a spam call and you answer it and you could tell it's obviously
Hello.
just or it goes hello, or they put like background noises in to sound like it's a person. I know it's a scam. I know I can just hang up and block it. But then I think all the people who won't know, like I know the difference because I'm aware of it, and then I worry about the other people that are sort of engaging with that. But I just think for me, AI, if you're using it to enhance what you're wanting to do, to make things better and use it for good and to use it in a way that only makes your creativity or something better, if it's used to cut corners or if it's used to not bother in some way or another, it grinds my gears because I think I don't need to get this information from you. I could have got that from a computer.
So how would you
For
feel?
now.
Yeah.
For now,
How would you feel about a podcast where the host was AI,
I'd think
which is happening?
Yeah.
that is insane, and I'd think I almost feel like I'd rather listen to a person because they've had the real experiences, and I think that's because you can't separate experience and emotion with information.
Do you play computer games at all?
I don't.
I'm always interested to think about people's reactions to AI voices, and then if they're really passionate about video games, going, well, how would you feel if you knew that every single voice in there was synthetic rather than like a real lived, like created performance from an actor? But you don't play games, so that's kind of moot.
But I mean, personally, I just think I like knowing that there's the creativity and there's detail attached to a real person's voice. But for now, I mean, obviously
now,
that
I mean,
is going to
that's
change,
the
this is the worst AI is ever going to be, and that's always something that scares me a little bit. Is that it's only ever going to get better. But I think it's difficult because there's two sides to the argument, I'd say. But you go.
No. Sorry. I mean, I was just going to make some flippant comment about we did once try, because we use voiceover artists, and we've got some regular people we go to for a couple of our clients. And on a recent occasion, we did actually try using AI. We actually had an AI voiceover in the studio, and basically I spent about 4 hours fanning about trying to make it sound good, when in reality, if we'd have hired the guy we always hire, it would have been done and delivered and back and in the project. So that'd be my first comment, that it didn't ever quite sound right.
Yeah.
But you say, oh, if I just added in a frame here and change that and change the spelling of this word, it'll figure it out. And for us, it didn't work. However, you can see it will work in the future. And my second thing is just about kind of like that quality thing, and about there have been lots of times where I spent ages labouring over a thing and the way it looks, and the reality is literally no one cares. And it's like it's me and one other graphic designer that would go, oh, that's right, smart bit of kerning there, my friend. You know, the way you're managing your characters there, very impressive. And so that's kind of like, you know,
It's an apostrophe, not an inching.
yeah,
mark.
I'm lucky enough or unlucky enough to have spent my entire career in the creative industry. I've been doing it a long time, and it is strange that, you know, I still spout that, you know, people have got a sixth sense for quality. People can feel, they sense quality. They and they do and they don't now. And I think, you know, you were saying about your son, that it's a changing landscape, which is great, but equally it's
People
a
are
challenge.
kind of used to it now, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're used to volume more than value,
And
and I think
also,
that's a shame.
I'm kind of, not to go too like big like themes with it, but I'm intrigued by the like ascent of AI and the descent of our as humans, our ability to connect with the humanity and people,
Yeah.
and the ascent of online life and synthetic technology, and our lack of empathy with other human experience,
Which is really scary.
which
isn't
is
it?
terrifying.
It's
Yeah,
The
terrifying.
fact that an AI could cry, that scares me more than anything, because I think, God, that's such that's such a raw human emotion, and the thought of that, it's kind of
But it's
weird.
a version, isn't it? I sense there's a part 2. It's a later date on this because we've prized open.
I was going to say, I feel
lid,
like we
a
could
little bit.
talk for hours, and that's something that, like I said, you're going to have to come back and do a part 2 or a part 3 or a part 4, or just kind of co-host with us, because I feel like, you know, but thank you for the book.
Oh God, and I brought you this as well, which is a little. So once at 3 a.m. in the morning, I had an idea for. You can get like manifesting card decks, or like card decks with like marketing tips or writing tips. I created this. It's called the voice deck.
Please present it to the camera.
And it's basically like a little warm-up voice deck. So you take out the cards. Shall I take it out and try it?
Let's demo it.
Shall I try and like QVC?
You've done that before.
I actually haven't. You know.
That was very impressive.
My friend who's a magician did a whole amazing shuffling video for me. It was awesome. So basically, it's 4. There's like 5 sections going through the classic warm-up structure, which is body, breath, sound, speech. You kind of pick one from each bit. It's the exercise on one side and a little description on the other. And then there's also a little QR code that takes you to videos of me. Very different version of me with very, very short blonde hair. Taking you through it, but so it's a little. So if you're new to warm up, so you've been doing it for ages and you're bored, or you want something tangible to help you through, then it's a nice little.
We will be giving that a go.
We need some giveaways.
I feel like we need to gift you with something from our people as well.
I'll take the.
Those cameras are pretty tasty.
Take one of those.
Yeah, that will do.
It's pretty good.
So where can people find you? Where can they get amazing
We should put
products
links
like
and stuff
this?
in the thing.
Where can people find you?
The book is at onthemicbook.com. You'll find everything about me there. But I'm really vibing with LinkedIn at the moment. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, it's Nic Redman.
Fabulous.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Thanks, Nick.
So before we all go, I do have a question at the end, which I think I think I'm quite proud of this question. So
Okay.
I
can't
got
see
this. No, every week Chris can't see them, so that comes in handy as well. So my question this week is, what's one completely useless skill you're secretly proud of? I actually have mine, so while you two are thinking of yours.
Go on, then. What's yours?
So mine is I can recite the entirety of Modern Major General from Pirates of
Hang on,
Penzance.
you're just setting yourself up
No,
here.
I'm
aren't
not
you?
doing it. I'll do it as a separate video probably.
That's one
But
for the Patreon.
I can do it. And talking about speaking fast, I can do the entire thing. And me and my brother, like the pair of nerds we are,
You
can
are
both
sad
do it.
characters.
Thank you.
So what was it, Quinn? What was the question?
What's one completely useless skill you're secretly proud of?
Useless.
I think the word
useless. Yeah, I'm
is
struggling with
subjective,
useless.
isn't it?
Irrelevant skill, or a
Oh,
skill that
not-
you can't. You're just sort
See,
of.
all
like,
my skills are really relevant,
This isn't
In
a
your
pitch.
opinion.
in my opinion.
Oh God, I feel like I've got loads.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Just so skilled at completely useless things. I can skipper a narrowboat, which is kind
That's
of. I
amazing.
did a couple of really peculiar jobs on narrowboats.
I've never have expected.
But you see, I think that's quite a useful skill.
Well, if I'm on a boat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're doing let's go on a narrowboat holiday, they'll be like, let's bring Nick, and I'll be like,
That's
Mine's
amazing.
that for
mine-
3 days.
Mine's a bit
That is
like,
a great
mine's
skill.
a bit like that. I can drive big stuff. So like a bus.
That's so useful
a
for a hen
big
do.
RV or
Yeah.
a minibus. Or
Yeah, I used to. We
lorry.
used to have a proper American Winnebago
That's cool.
Imagine
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, but a bit more glamorous, and
Yeah.
less drugs.
With trousers on.
with trousers. Well, sometimes. So the back of my license is basically all I'm missing is my HGV and a tank. I've got everything else.
There's still time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have,
We need
and
the
I
Howell
have
Media tank.
weirdly, I have thought about doing my HGV license
Do it, just
Do
so
it.
we can get
Just-
a Howell
Do a
Media
podcast
license.
about
just so I can tick them off.
Me and you could do a podcast episode where you're driving the big lorry and I'm next to you. Honk, honk, like,
So I think that's quite a good skill.
that is a good skill.
But it's useful sometimes because sometimes, like when you moved house, as an example,
That came in very handy.
and and people go, God, that idiot actually can reverse a lorry up a tiny street
Yeah.
and do
a
stuff
lane
like
that's
that.
about this big,
Yeah.
so that was impressive.
Yeah.
I have one more that's kind
Go
of
on.
relevant to what we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Do it.
And that is that I can do a really bad AI voice,
Do it.
Oh no, you can't leave us hanging.
which is a useless skill because
Okay.
nobody wants that. Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Nic Redman, and I've been on the podcast today.
That is actually really good.
That is a.
Are you actually AI? Are you a real person?
I am actually a hologram. I'm not even really here right now.
That is amazing.
Good, isn't it?
You should have done that for the whole
It's my
episode
party trick.
as a protest.
She
But
was really nice, but her voice is like a really bad AI.
For a voice expert, yeah. It wasn't.
I do not know what is happening now.
that is amazing.
Yes.
I could.
So one final thing. I know this is
right.
like a 40 minutes now, isn't it?
I'm good. I need to do the
Can,
outro.
can
which
you?
I'm nervous
Okay.
about.
Can you change your voice? Because my wife takes the mickey out of me, right? Because she says I'm like squeaky voice and stuff, and she laughs at me because when I get excited, which is quite frequently, where's this going? I do get increasingly higher pitched, and I've often thought about doing a Mrs. Thatcher, and kind of like
Yeah.
lowering stuff.
Don't.
So can you change your voice?
I have a couple of answers. One is, it's an instrument. You can play it however you want. I do actually teach, I'm going down in a couple of weeks actually to teach a workshop on voice for animation.
Right.
So
interesting,
vocal
okay.
flexibility for animation. But my follow-up question is, why? Why do you want to?
Just to get one over on her, really.
Okay.
To not be Mr. Squeaky.
I'm completely Swiss in this argument. So I'm saying nothing.
Well, she'll never listen to this because we're 60. How many episodes are we in? Like,
Nearly 70 episodes, I think.
and she's never
she's not
she's
listening.
never listened
Absolutely not.
or
No,
watched.
this is a safe space.
As the wife of a podcaster. I have to, because people come to me so much wanting to change their
Right.
voice, and most of the time that's not actually the problem.
Right.
I am absolutely an advocate for, in this situation or showing up in video, not changing your voice at all.
Yes, I'm going
Playing
for
it
that.
in different, more curious, interesting, exciting ways, making sure that it supports the story you're telling and the journey you're taking people on, or represents your brand, all those kinds of decisions.
Right.
Yeah, but not just changing it for the sake of it.
Tell that to Mother. Just
will.
put that out there.
But
So-
hi, Chris's wife. I hope you're well. You seem really nice. Fair play.
So I'm going to read the outro now.
All eyes.
I know, and now I'm.
Okay, we'll put your feet down.
I
like
know,
my toes.
yeah, okay.
Breathe
right.
out.
I need to be able to see it. Right. And that's a wrap on this episode of Looks Like We Made It. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you're here for the video marketing insights, the storytelling magic, or just to hear me and my dad talk shop. We drop new episodes every other Tuesday, so hit that follow button and stay tuned for more tips, real life experiences, and behind the scenes stories from the world of content creation. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our website. Just search for Howell Media and say hi. We'd love to hear your thoughts, answer your questions, or even have you on the show just like Nick. If you've got a great story to share or fancy joining us for a chat just like Nick, drop us a message. We're always looking for inspiring guests just like Nick. Until next time, keep creating, keep storytelling, and remember, every great piece of content starts with an idea. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.